The struggle is real. I need glasses to see, but I didn't pay for the anti-glare, so I'm so sorry if the glare on my glasses bothers you, but can't really do much about it. I closed my curtains and hopefully that helps, but that also affects the quality of the video, so anyway. Hello fellow crafters and welcome to another video. So this is going to be the follow-up to the Disney bracelets that I shrunk and posted a week ago maybe? This video right here. So if you haven't seen it, the link will be in the description. I'll have a little card thing pop up so you can watch that if you are interested. But in this video, I'm going to be showing two different ways that I shrink plastic. So that one was two different ways I color plastic. This one is two different ways that I shrink plastic. So way one of shrinking plastic is using a heat gun. It says heat tool, embossing heat tool by the Paper Studio. I think I paid like $20 for this at Hobby Lobby. I used a coupon though, and they have another fancier looking one. It's the same brand except it kind of folds in half, so I guess it doesn't take up that much space, but I was fine with this, I didn't care. And it's pink, so yeah. The other one is purple, so it's not like it's an ugly color. So in the video, I'm going to be taking the sound off while using this heat gun because all you're going to hear is this. Occasionally for certain pieces, like once you've done this for a while, if you're new to it, you'll kind of realize how certain pieces will shrink, which pieces will do better with the heat gun versus an oven. And since I don't have my oven in my room with me, I just brought this little pan that I used to put in my oven. I just got it at the dollar store and I didn't measure it out. It doesn't fit in my toaster oven. I could use my regular oven, but it just freaks me out because the plastic will collapse on itself, and 99% of the time when I'm trying to separate it, I don't want to stick my hands into a giant oven. I'd rather pull this out of a toaster oven or just turn this off or put it down real quick while I separate the plastic. So okay, yeah, enough of my face. Let's just get to the video and I'll give you my pros and cons and just tips on using the heat gun and the toaster oven. Alright, so you're going to want to get something flat with no texture on it. So I just grabbed this little book. I always grab random things. A lot of people will use spatulas. I'll probably get one eventually to use specifically for the shrink plastic, but for now I'm just going to use that book. I also always wipe down my tray before shrinking. So even if I just wiped it down and shrunk something, I'll wipe it down again before I shrink the next piece. Because in the past I've had little specks of the colored pencil come off of it, off of the plastic after it's finished shrinking, and whenever I shrink the next piece, those little pigments will get pushed into the next piece. So yeah, I always wipe it down. Okay, so I want to talk about the pros and cons of using a heat gun versus an oven. And honestly, I don't think they're that different, or like the changes are that drastic. So like if you don't have a heat gun, don't feel like you need to go buy one. An oven works great, and yeah. Okay, so the pros of using a heat gun. I like that you have more control over the pieces that you're shrinking, so you're able to stop really quick and to separate the plastic if it kind of sticks to itself. Also, there's just certain shapes, like this Reptar for example. He has really scrawny arms, and if I would have stuck him in an oven, there would be a chance that he could have shrunk, and like if one of the arms got stuck to any other part of him, it would have probably been really hard to separate it, or it would have like just ripped an arm off. So not to sound morbid or anything, but yeah, I think it's just a lot easier with a heat gun to watch it as it's going, and you're able to to check that out and to fix those things before they happen. Alright, next is tears. So sometimes when I'm cutting my shapes out, I accidentally tear the piece, or these flowers, for example, already had a tear in them when I got them. So with the heat gun, I'm able to see to make sure that the tear doesn't get bigger, but on the contrary, that it melts together while it's shrinking. I've done this in the oven too, like I've put pieces in the oven that have been slightly torn depending on where the tear is, but again, that kind of comes with just having done this a million times, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you do get small tears, don't worry about it, it'll melt back together when it's shrinking. Another pro, I guess I would say, about using a heat gun is you don't have to use an oven if it freaks you out, like having to use your oven, like the same oven you cook food in, using it for like, you know, something foreign like plastic. There's no like fumes and there's no smells that come off of it, but I also use a heat gun because my husband just feels more comfortable with it that way, and I don't care. Like I said, I've gotten used to it, so I just use a heat gun like 99% of the time. I also shrink the plastic, as you can tell, on top of my stove, just because I know the stovetop can handle the heat. And yeah. I also do this thing, I don't know if you noticed it while watching the video, but I tend to flip the pieces, so I don't start it like with the shiny side up or the colored side up. I start it whatever side up, and then I just like flip it throughout the shrinking process when I use my heat gun. Sometimes I feel like it looks like it's not doing much. I'll hold the heat over it and it's not shrinking anymore, so I flip it over, and for some reason that gets it to continue to shrink. So I don't think that that's a huge problem in the oven. I think I've only had to do that once in my oven, but I do it a lot with my heat gun, and I don't mind it. I got used to that. Alright, so now some of the cons. You just saw that little Yoshi egg, and any small piece, they just fly away and they just fly around like crazy, and it's just a hot mess. It's really annoying, and that's a pro with the oven, is that it doesn't matter how small your piece is, it's not going to make everything fly away because there's no air blowing on it. So that would be like my first con for using a heat gun. Although I still shrink small pieces with my heat gun. It's not impossible, it's just annoying and it takes a little bit longer. Something else I wanted to mention real quick is that when I'm finished shrinking a piece, I usually try to give it like a good 15 seconds before I lift it up, just because it's still pretty hot, and after flattening it out, I don't want to just rewarp it, like pick it up and then the edges slightly curve up, especially because I add resin to it. That really wouldn't help with the resin process, so yeah. Alright, so moving on to what I like about using the toaster oven or like a regular oven. I like that you can do multiple pieces at once, so I usually just do like 3 max. Partially because I have such a tiny tin on here. And yeah, so I'll do like 2 or 3 pieces, and yeah, it just helps the process go by faster. Also, it does the work for you, so you just kind of pop it in the oven, and it'll shrink it for you. You're not having to use your tool or whatever. My con for using the oven is what I've mentioned, that it's just harder to save your pieces if they do melt to themselves. Does that make sense? If they melt, you know what I'm trying to say. If it sticks to itself and then it melts together and then you're trying to take it out of your oven, the plastic cools kind of quickly, so you're having to separate it while it's still burning hot, and I just feel like that's more scary and more dangerous in the oven. And I mean, come on, like you spend so long coloring in your pieces and drawing them and all that stuff, so for it to just like crap out whenever you're shrinking them, like it's heartbreaking, and it's happened to me before where I've had pieces that just couldn't be saved. So alright, so going back to the video, I pointed out on the little flowers, the plastic had this little like bulge in it, so the flower looked like it had a little faded spot. And then I hated how Minnie and Daisy turned out from the heat tool. And I don't think it had anything to do with the heat tool. I don't know what the heck happened, but they just looked terrible. Not only because I forgot to color over one of Minnie's eyebrows with the colored pencils, but just the colors turned out weird. But the pieces, man, like you'll see in a little bit. I'll do an actual comparison. Yeah, they just looked really, really strange. And I also wanted to do this like doing the same pieces, so not only coloring two different ways, but also shrinking two different ways, just to see if there was even a comparison between the two. Like, is one better than the other? Do some pieces come out smaller with the toaster oven or whatever? But in the end, they turned out to be roughly the same size, so I don't think one was better than the other. Although I did mention my own personal pros and cons, but that's just my opinion. Alright, we're finally reaching the end of the video, and this is before I resin the pieces that I am going to use, or that I did use on the bracelets. I just kept the nicer ones. All of them except for the colored pencil Daisy, the colored pencil Minnie, and the marker version of the watermelon. All of those shrunk really weird, and as you can see, I'm stacking them on top of each other and they didn't come out the same size. They came out really long looking. I don't know why. So that really sucked, but at least I had one good Daisy and one good Minnie, so I put one of each on the bracelets that I gave to my kids. And obviously here they have the glitter and resin, so these were the pieces that I kept. And if you notice on the flower colored pencil one, the darker ones, they have glitter over that part that was faded, the part that I pointed out earlier that was faded. So whenever I have pieces that have blemishes or little things like that, I just add a big chunk of glitter and boom, problem solved. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Let me know if you liked it and whether or not you use a heat gun or a toaster oven. What's your preference? Do you think they're the same? I used to think that the heat gun caused pieces to come out smaller. But honestly, it just depends on the plastic and how it feels. I have a heart hole punch. I punched out 4 of the exact same shaped hearts from the exact same shrink plastic sheet. I popped them in the toaster oven. This was like a couple of years ago. And they all came out 4 different sizes. One came out really small, one was a little bit bigger, one was medium, and it was just weird. So I really can't say that one is better than the other in consistency, but that's also the charm of DIY, is that, you know, not every piece is going to come out identical because it's not being mass produced. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching. I will see y'all next time.